Everyone is calling Iran a war of choice. Democrats are screaming for Donald Trump's impeachment. The media is painting Trump as a reckless idiot who just randomly started striking countries and kidnapping presidents. But what if I told you that everything happening right now with Venezuela, Iran, and threatening Cuba is one single connected strategy that's been playing out for over a year now? And the mainstream media doesn't want you to connect these dots. Let's break it down. What's up? It's me, Alexander, also known as ORN5F, and today we are doing something just a bit different. This isn't my usual content, but honestly, it's way too important for me to ignore. I am 15 years old. I am from the state of New York. And I'm going to be real with you. I am a Republican at heart. Okay? But I'm not here to blindly defend the Republican Party. I'm here to connect the dots that mainstream media is keeping separated. Okay? Because whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or you don't even know or care about politics at all, you deserve to see the full picture about what is going on with our country. So let us get into this video. Chapter 1, the chessboard. Before we talk about Iran, we need to talk about Venezuela. Because that's where this whole thing actually started. Alright? On January 3rd, 2026, U.S. Delta Force troops captured Nicolas Maduro, the dictator of Venezuela, on drug trafficking and corruption charges. And most people covered it as just a drug story. Criminals get caught. End of story. Maybe even a kidnapping of a president. But zoom out, and it is much, much bigger than what they're trying to say it is. Venezuela was supplying around 80% of its oil exports directly to China, not to Europe, not to anyone else. China. And Iran was doing the same thing, selling around 90% of its oil exclusively to China, at massive discounts, through a shadow banking system designed to dodge U.S. sanctions. These two countries were essentially China's secret discounting gas station. Trump, he just shut them down. But here's what nobody's talking about. Venezuela was also Cuba's lifeline. Cuba gets almost no oil from anywhere else. The moment Maduro was captured and Venezuelan oil flow was disrupted, Cuba's economy started suffocating. And I mean literally suffocating. Blackouts were seen across Cuba, airports unable to refuel the planes like they used to be able to. It's sad. The food refrigeration in Cuba failing and water treatment slowly breaking down. Trump didn't need to invade Cuba. He just needed to take out Venezuela first. One move, three targets. Venezuela, China, and Cuba, all simultaneously weakened. And right after the Maduro capture, Republican Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart stood at a press conference and said Cuba and Nicaragua's days are also counted. They weren't hiding it. This was always the plan. And now, Trump is openly talking about a friendly takeover of Cuba, according to NBC News. Negotiations are reportedly already happening with the Castro family's own grandson. He publicly told a Cuban American at a White House event, "You're gonna go back," promising the Cuban diaspora their homeland back. That's not random. That's a sequence plan playing out in real time. So why Iran next? What about Cuba directly? But here it's where it gets really interesting. Right? Intelligence showed that China was close to delivering advanced missiles to Iran. Missiles capable of sinking an uh, aircraft carrier nearly possible to intercept. Once those missiles arrived, a strike on Iran became exponentially more dangerous and costly. There was a closing window, and the US and Israel jumped right through it. But don't act like this was never there to begin with, because they had a ceasefire. in June 2025. It just was a little later than they would have wanted it to be. Okay. On February 28th, 2026, Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion launched simultaneously, targeting Iran's military infrastructure and leadership. Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, was killed in the opening strikes. Now, was this legal under international law? That is genuinely debatable. Most international law scholars say that the initial strike violated the UN Charter, since Iran wasn't actively attacking the US or Israel at the moment. But here's what changed everything. Iran then fired hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones at UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. This gave the US and Israel all the legal protection that they needed. During this, they had hit civilian airports, residential towers, hotels. Three migrant workers from Pakistan, Nepal, and Bangladesh were killed. People with zero stake in any of this. Iran even hit Turkish territory, a NATO member, and struck a British RAF base in Cyprus. At that point, Iran handed the US and its allies a completely clean legal justification to continue and expand the coalition. Whatever you think about who started it, Iran is attacking NATO soil is a separate legal event entirely. And now let's zoom all the way out, because this is the part that blows my mind. The United States of America is currently producing 24 million barrels of oil per day, more than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. Trump's stated goal is American energy dominance. And look at this. Yeah, what this strategy achieves on that front alone. Venezuelan oil now under U.S. influence. After Maduro's capture, like Iranian oil is now disrupted, with regime change possibly putting the U.S. in charge of all their oil, and whether it even goes to China or not. Like the same thing with Cuba if it ends up collapsing. Like Cuban oil is now cut off because Venezuela can't give it. Russia is being simultaneously squeezed through these energy sanctions. China is losing access to discounted sanctioned oil from multiple sources simultaneously while facing a potential $100 per barrel oil market. All while the U.S. Navy is literally escorting oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz right now. Whoever controls the shipping lanes controls the price. This isn't random. This is a unified energy dominance strategy with military, economic, and geopolitical dimensions all working together. Now, let's talk about Trump is a monster narrative, because the impeachment history tells you everything you need to know about how this works. Trump has been impeached twice, and articles for a third impeachment have already been filed over the Iran powers question, and also with the Venezuela situation. But here's the context that the media never gives you. Democrats controlled the House both times. After winning 41 seats in the 2018 midterms, they used that majority to impeach Trump in December 2019 over Ukraine. Then again in January 2021 over January 6th. No Democratic House majority, no impeachments. It is just that simple. The first impeachment, the Ukraine one, was honestly the weakest case. The charge was essentially, we think there was a quid pro quo. The evidence was largely circumstantial. Even some legal scholars who opposed Donald Trump said the case was legally thin. The vote was almost perfectly partisan. 228 Democrats yes, 195 Democrats no. Only 3 Democrats broke ranks. That's not a constitutional accountability process. That's a party line vote dressed up as one. The second impeachment on January 6th was genuinely stronger legally. And look, I'm a Republican at heart, but I'm going to be honest here. 7 Republican senators crossed party lines to vote guilty. That's not nothing. That impeachment had more bipartisan support than the first one, and the legal case was way stronger. But even then, they got 57 out of 67 votes needed, and Trump faced zero legal consequences. The constitutional bar is intentionally almost impossible to clear, which raises the question of whether the whole thing was about accountability or messaging. And here's the thing, through both impeachments, Trump's base stayed rock solid because while Democrats were running impeachment hearings, Trump had delivered 3.5% unemployment rate, 7 million new jobs, the Abraham Accords and USMCA. People felt in their wallets. That disconnect between what people experience economically versus what they saw in the impeachment circus is exactly why I never reasoned within the public. The third The third potential impeachment over Iran war powers actually has the strongest pure constitutional case of the three. Legal scholars across the political spectrum agree the strikes were launched without proper congressional authorization. But the Republicans control the House now, so it won't go anywhere. Same playbook, different, opposite direction. Here's something Trump himself is reportedly losing sleep over: the 2026 midterms. Here's how it works. Right now, the Republicans control the House. But, which means the impeachment right now is goes nowhere. But if Democrats flip the House in November, this could be a third impeachment, very, very fast, just because of the fact that they control the House. Everything. They get the majority, they got the chairs, and they got the power. Trump knows this. He has told Republicans directly that they need to win in November to protect him. Betting markets currently show only a 12% chance of impeachment of Donald Trump this year, but a 66% chance by January 2028 if Democrats take the House. So these midterms aren't just a political scorecard, they're potentially the most consequential election for whether this grand strategy continues or gets derailed by a Democratic House doing exactly what Democratic Houses have done twice before. Watch November 2026 closely, America. It might matter more than any presidential election in recent memory. And don't get me wrong, people have definitely said something about this being like Iraq. And let me clear the air, this is not Iraq. I know a lot of different people, including my teachers at my school, are talking about how this is almost exactly like Iraq, showing comparisons and having these flashbacks from Iraq. And I get it, I am only 15 years old. But when I look at all this evidence, there's different changes. But I understand why people are kind of scared of this. I wasn't alive, okay? It's 2003. I was born in 2010. But I studied this. George W. Bush was Republican president from 2001 to 2009 when he authorized this in 2003. The Iraq War, though, did not have authorization just from Republicans. It was also the Democrats. Massive bipartisan support. Hillary Clinton voted yes. Joe Biden voted yes. John Kerry voted yes. 296 members of Congress from both parties voted yes. So when the Democrats now decide to use this as some thing against Trump, I need to remember their own leaders voted for this war. That they're not using it as the ultimate cautionary tale. That's not me being partisan. That's just historical record. Now, is this situation like Iraq? Here is why this is fundamentally a little bit different. Different strategy, different administration, and different world. Okay, they're both Republican, I understand that. But doesn't mean they have the same agendas. Iraq in 2003 was based on one intelligence claim. One single claim. Weapons of mass destruction that turned out to be completely false. There was no WMD. Thank you, Colin. The entire justification collapsed. And the US went in with no plan what came after, creating a power vacuum that destabilized the entire region for 2 decades. But here's what's a bit different this time. First, the justification for Venezuela wasn't manufactured intelligence. Maduro was indicted on drug trafficking charges. Drug trafficking charges, by the way. Years before any of this action, those charges were real. Okay, they're not like some fake charges, and they were documented. This isn't the same as Colin Powell holding up a vial at the UN and claiming there's definitely WMDs. Second, the Iran nuclear program is real and documented by international inspectors. That's not disputed even by people who oppose the strikes. The disagreement is about whether or not it was the right response, not whether this actually existed. Third, Iran had no strategic energy or containment logic connecting it to a broader plan. It was sold as a standalone democracy project. All right, and now this is different. This is a connected multi-country strategy with energy dominance and China containment at its core. Right or wrong, that's a coherent doctrine, not a one-off intervention based built on fake intelligence. Fourth, the Trump administration has sequenced this for over a year. The Venezuela operation? Like what? It was planned for months. This is not rushed post 9/11 emotional decision making that drove to us going after Iraq because, oh, they're with Al Qaeda that did to the towers. Does that mean what is being done is right now? No, probably not. But does it mean that there's zero risks of things going wrong? That's also no. The Iraq comparison as a general warning about the danger of military intervention is completely valid and worth taking seriously. But are they the same strategy, the same administration, the same intelligence failures? No. Are they understanding the difference that helps you actually evaluate what's going on? No. Instead of just pattern matching to the last time something went wrong, actually maybe see the differences. To my global teacher and to everyone else who's worried about this, your concern is kind of legitimate. I hear you. Just make sure you actually have a accurate comparison. So now let's recap Donald Trump's move just one more time. Venezuela was the right move. The first one, cut off China and Cuba, oil, legal justification to drug trafficking charges. No one could really argue against arresting Nicolas Maduro. Iran was moved to close the window before Chinese missiles arrive, eliminate a nuclear threat, disrupt China's second major sanctioned oil source, and push the entire Gulf Arab world firmly into the US camp through Iran's own Overreach. Cuba is move 3, already in economic freefall, okay? Negotiations are already reportedly happening behind the scenes. Trump publicly promising Cuban Americans that they are going back to Cuba. The midterms in 2026, the things that could derail everything if the Democrats decide to flip the House. And underneath all of it, energy dominance, China containment, and a coherent grand strategy that the media keeps covering one story at a time. So you can never see the full picture. Look, I'm a Republican at heart, I'm a Trump supporter, but I tried to be fair in this breakdown. I acknowledged where the legal questions are real. I acknowledged where the second impeachment had genuinely bipartisan support. I acknowledge where the risk exists, because that's what honest commentary looks like, and it's exactly what the mainstream media on both sides isn't giving it. I am 15 years old from New York State, one of the bluest states in the country as a Republican, and if I can connect these dots, so can you. Drop a comment. Do you think this is genius strategy or dangerous overreach? I want to hear both sides. And if you're new here, subscribe because I'm going to keep breaking down what the mainstream media won't connect for you. Thank you for listening to ORM5F and have an amazing night. Thank you.